Welcome to Biz Meds with Darris and Saad, where we give you the medications for your business. This podcast is all about the minimum effective doses you need to make a massive improvement in your business. Listen and enjoy.
Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of Biz Meds. We are your hosts. My name is Saad.
And my name is Darris.
So you guys probably remember us talking about the Limitless movie and Bradley Cooper, specifically in that movie. And because I know, Darris, you remember it because you've seen it a few times, right?
I think we thoroughly established I have seen it. I've seen half of it.
You only saw like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, like the intro. It was the credits.
And you knew exactly what was about to happen.
Exactly what was happening.
So the reason I'm bringing that up is we mentioned a topic or a thing in that podcast called the 1 month day, the concept of the 1 month day. And it heavily utilizes flow. But I think to start off, let's talk a bit more about what is the 1 month day and how did you, Darris, come up with putting that together and what was the thought process behind it?
Okay. So the 1 month day, yeah, we spent a little bit of time. We touched on it very sporadically throughout the episodes. And yeah, I think 2 episodes ago is where we first really talked about the 1 month day. And that's the course that was developed as a direct result of a lot of significant challenges I've been experiencing. And I'll go into those in a bit, but I think it's the real 1 month day is how can you do more in one day than you've ever done in an entire month? And the reasoning or the logic, the math behind that is that, and you can look at the different studies, but essentially is because we lead such a distracted lifestyle that we only get about an hour of true focused productive time per day. And even if that, it's probably not really even a true flow state. It's just we only get about a full hour of truly focused work done per day. So when you look at, and to give context, when you look at how many times you look at your phone and you are checking your email or you get a notification or, you know, if you're in an office setting, you know, someone comes by, oh, do you have a quick minute? Or, you know, you're sitting in your office and one of your teammates come by and they say, oh, hey, boss, you got a minute? It's the famous got a minute meetings, right? And every time that happens, it takes on average, I think it's somewhere between 11 and 14 minutes to come back into focus. So every time that happens there's that whole struggle phase and but we get distracted so often that we actually rarely get back into a true focus state. So the math, the science says we only get about an hour of productive time per day. If you extrapolate that over an entire month, there's on average 20 to 22 working days in a month. So on average, we're only ever getting about 22 hours of truly focused work done per month, which if you think about that, like that math is like, that's terrible.
Those are horrible stats.
Yeah. So, you know, of 22 days, you're getting, 22 working days, you're getting 22 hours. That's less than, you know, about half of one working week. And so if you think that's happening to you, think about how much that's happening to people on your team and the people you're responsible for as a business owner. And we wonder why productivity is terrible. Well, that's why. It's because most of us lead way more distracted, or we're way more distracted than we ever really know that we are.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are going to be watching this and saying, "Oh no, I'm busy, so busy. I'm
busy,
so much work."
I can multitask, and multitask is a fallacy. So I don't care what anybody says. There's multiple studies. You can research it that anyone says. And as soon as someone says, oh, I can multitask. No, all you're doing is splitting your focus and you're just becoming terrible at multiple things.
Yeah. You're giving 50% to two things that require
if
100%.
lucky. Yeah.
Exactly.
If you're lucky. Plus a distraction on top of that.
Yeah.
You're never even giving it that much.
So the purpose of us, again, talking about this a bit more is because, I'm touching back onto the episode of Bradley Cooper in Limitless.
Which movie is that?
Limitless?
Oh, yes.
Is, again, people want to be able to get into that state. They want to be able to have that clarity and focus every single day, going through their day, knowing what they're about to do and how they're about to do it, and then, collapse the timelines that they're expected to be able to do or are wanting to do.
Yeah.
Right. And then we started talking about the 1 month day a little bit. And,
the premise of that whole episode was that, wouldn't it be nice that we could take a pill and have that amount of clarity, focus, output, productivity, and creativity and all these things? And the idea was, actually, you don't need a pill. It's all like we already have that capability with the neurochemicals that we already currently possess. The biggest challenge is we don't know how to do that. Part of the biggest challenge is we're so distracted that we have lost the art of being able to focus and pay attention to things.
Yeah. So, but you do have the formula.
We have the formula. Yes, we do. And that was, again, the catalyst for creating, it inevitably what happened was you stumbled on to that, like that very not well known part of neuroscience called flow. And I stumbled onto it and by complete accident. Only because I had become so frustrated, burned out, stressed out, worn out at that time that I was looking for any way to not feel like that. And when I say stressed out, burned out, maxed out, I mean by 2:00 in the afternoon, I could not keep my eyes open and feeling like an absolute failure because I could not stay awake and just feeling like I had no energy. I wasn't taking care of myself. So, and everything suffered. And then on top of that, layering in guilt, shame, just feeling like you're a loser and a failure. And you have in your brain, in your mind, in your heart, you have these big goals, but you're falling. I know I was falling way short of that, and it was killing me. And I was so depressed over that because I was like, how can this be? How can there be people that just, I'm given the same 24 hours as a Jeff Bezos or anyone else. I'm given the same 24 hours. So how is it that they could do that? And here I am by 2:00 in the afternoon struggling to keep my eyes open because I'm just so depleted on every level. And as a result, just happened to stumble onto the neuroscience, the science of flow. And suddenly a lot of things made a lot of sense. So that, a lot of the overwhelm, anxiety, burnout, exhaustion was primarily for me, and I think a lot of people, a direct result of just such high cognitive load. You go back, if you want to listen to one of the first episodes, that was the first episode we talked about was cognitive load and what that does. And it literally felt like I was, my brain as a computer had a million tabs open going constantly and burning up every bit of mental energy that I had, tapping out all of my resources. I felt like I had no time to just take a break or think about, and not even like think about strategic things, because it was just everything was important all the time. And as a result, then that kicks you over into the idea where you get overwhelmed because you don't even know where to start. So being able to first kind of deal with the cognitive load and deal with strategies to help manage cognitive load. And by doing that, suddenly gained some horsepower back to be like, started to be able to close tabs down. And suddenly I had a bit more mental runway, a little bit more horsepower to be able to then take care of things. And then understanding, oh, wow, there is a state that when you are in it, and when you're in a flow state, like your creativity, your productivity, everything is like amplified 500%. And you can go in, you can do the studies. If we can, we'll link to some of them in the show notes. You can go and you can read the book Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. And again, one of the biggest studies ever done on, optimal performance and cross-section of people all over around the world. He wrote a book. It's been studied countlessly since then. And that was really the genesis of stumbling into flow state. And then when I understood that, it was like, okay, wow, I could actually get into, there was a formula, and there is a formula for getting into flow. And for me, I always look back and I thought that those states were just these, like, it was completely by fluke, that somehow things just lined up in this magical way that I had no idea that there was a formula for that I would perform optimally more than I ever have before. So I think I would share that on one of the last couple episodes around when I was a competitive speed skater. That for me was the easiest way to understand what a flow state felt like, where everything just time for me. It was like you hear people when they witness an accident and time slows down. Again, time dilation is one of the key things of being in flow. And I understood that. And suddenly you just knew everything lined up. Everything just flows. I mean, that's why it's called flow, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a flow state and it feels flowy. And it was amazing. And realizing that you could actually leverage that for doing more and achieving all of your goals.
Yeah. So now how did you go about like actually putting that together? What made you understand, like, so the 1 month day, again, as we know it,
yes,
it's a very refined process,
yes,
framework that allows you to.
That's the process of trial and error and saying, okay, well, I'm going to get into flow. All right. How do I get into flow and study flow, become, I'm not going to say expert, but learning as much as I possibly can about flow and how to get into flow. So, taking as many courses, learning how to coach flow, all the things, and then understand that, oh, wow. All right, here's the first level is you can get into a state of flow for a certain amount of time. And then as you start to implement these things, it's okay. Then what happens is inevitably, for some reason, I think people will probably appreciate this because it's probably all over social media, and there's so many people that what they do is they take something and they run it down to, like, they go down the rabbit hole and they try to start optimizing everything to the tiniest detail. And so I think there's a couple examples of that. One, there's when you in the flow circles, there's the flow scientists and they're all like, they're neuroscientists. And of course, what they do, they go down those and they're going to try to find those little paths to go down all the way down to the most minute. And it's like, okay, great. That might be because you're really interested in flow. The other side is you have you and I call the productivity porn gurus. Yeah. Right? Where they're just like, you got to wake up at 6 a.m. 4 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to go to do your cold plunge, and you have to have the same morning routine, and you optimize from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, and every minute of sleep has to be perfectly optimized. Yeah. And it's unrealistic and it's unreasonable.
Yeah. And it's unsustainable.
It's completely unsustainable. And so when you take all that in and you're a business owner, you have a finite amount of resources, both mental, emotional, in all those areas. You just have a time, energy, all the things. You just have a finite amount of resources. And it is unrealistic to try to optimize every second of every minute of every hour of every day. It's completely. So it was, okay, so applying the the simple framework that this whole podcast is premised on, which is the minimum effective dose, right? What can you do to help someone like make a massive amount of change to do a lot more given their finite amount of resources? And that's where the idea of the 1 month day was born, was that, okay, well, if this is the case, if this is what the math is telling us, if this is how distracted a life that we're actually living, then this is contributing to so much cognitive load in the world. And as a society, because there is a war on our attention, and at no other time in human history has social media, media, technology been so pervasive in our lives that everything is designed to pull at our attention, then we as a society, we as a people, we have lost the ability to even know how to focus at a very simple level. And I say that not even just as business context, but even in relationships. So how many times do we sit down, with someone, and, our idea of spending quality time is we're sitting on a couch, on each end of the couch, we're both on our phones while a TV show's on, and there is nothing happening.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like, you're not giving your attention to the phone, to the TV, to each other, nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's quality time, or, and to me, that's a whole lot of bullshit. It's just become more and more apparent to me over the time just how distracted and how we have lost the art of focus and being able to channel our attention to things. And so if we look at, as we just dove in, I was, okay, what if we could just trade? And the idea was born, like, what if I could trade 1 day in a month and do more in that 1 day just at a super hyper productive? What would that do? Well, if it was on the most important things, right, the things that create the most leverage, I would be able to, in 1 year, do 2 years worth of work at a very minimum.
Right.
And so, I remember also watching, there was the whole Netflix series about Michael Jordan, right? And Michael Jordan used to get up, and I'm going to butcher this. I know. It's the idea, so everyone can just chill out in the comment section. It's really the fact that he would get up and he would practice earlier than everyone else. Yeah. He would go out and he would do more, and he would spend more time. He would spend the time doing the volume needed to be the best. And so if you have a finite amount of resources, well, how do you do that? Well, we want to leverage flow to be able to do that. So that was the genesis of the 1 month day, to say, okay, the trade-off is, I know you're stressed out. So for those that are, maybe trying to get a business started, they work a 9 to 5, and then they want to come home and oh, well, I want to keep this business going. And guess what? You have kids and you have a spouse, and you have to spend time and energy and attention with them. And then it's 8, 9 o'clock, and then you're going to spend another hour trying to work on your business, or you're inundated every day with your team constantly needing to put out fires, answering emails, customers, all that shit, all the important stuff, right? It's all important, at some level, but it's not the most important things, because you're not focused on the most important things that's going to move the business forward. So the trade-off became, okay, if we can take 1 day and trade all of that most important, where you get all of that most important work done in that day, then you have the time, energy, you have the resources now to divert to, or reallocate to say, okay, I'm here for the team. I can put out the fires day to day, because every month for 1 day, I know I'm getting the most important things done.
Exactly. Yeah. So leading up to doing the 1 month day and being in the 1 month day on the flow state, run us through, like, what are the things that need to be done to make that 1 month day successful? Okay.
So there's a few things. So, let's talk about, flow in and of itself is a cycle. So there's flow, struggle, release, flow, recovery. And so when you are going into that, we say this, it's fundamental part of the course is, and you even mentioned it a couple episodes ago, around, if you're going to go into flow, you have to be well rested. You have to be recovered. You can't go in sick. You can't go, half-assed. If you have a terrible shit sleep the night before, you're not going to be in the zone and ready and prepped. And so that's one of the coaching foundations before going in, and making sure that you are properly recovered in, or prior to actually going into your 1 month day. There's a lot of other things. So there's the pre-work that goes in. So understanding a lot more of the neuroscience of flow. There's some foundation pieces. There's understanding the myth of time that we have all been led to believe. We're not going to talk about, just kind of giving a higher level, that for some reason we have this really weird attachment to time, and there's a such thing as objective time and subjective time, and one is more important than the other to us. Then there's the whole understanding of you can do a 1 month day, but you can actually leverage multiple 1 month days together. And there's the risks of, we'll call them mission risks, right? So going into a 1 month day, there's all the mindset of going into 1 month day, the preparation. And I would say the preparation is also key. So when you learn how to plan on a 1 month day, we provide all of those tools. So all of the templates, the training around that. And some of it is really understanding, for those that don't know, well, what is leverage? So we actually spend time diving into what exactly leverage is. And then, we talked about the one big domino. So what are those key things that are actually the most important things that it's much more valuable to you to spend time on and working on and solving for your business, right? We don't want to use the 1 month day to do your taxes.
Exactly.
Right? Like, this is all about big strategic moves that create leverage, that create massive momentum, that collapse massive timeframes. That's what this is all about. And that's the power of the program, because like this is the beginning of skill acquisition in mastery and flow.
Yeah.
And when we talked about leverage, like flow is leverage itself. And then you take a skill like being able to execute 1 month day is next level leverage and skill acquisition.
Yeah. Let me just hop in here real quickly. This might be coming from the left field, but you touched on it just now a little bit. Can somebody that is working a 9 to 5 utilize the 1 month day? If yes, how? If no, why not?
Okay, so yes, with the caveat being so yes, if you have a lot of control over your schedule and
the nature of your work.
And the nature of your work facilitates that. So if you are, let's say, working in a pizza shop, right, and you're making pizzas, 1 month day is not going to help you, okay?
I'm making all the pizzas
for this month today. And unfortunately, you can't then magically increase the output of your pizza oven by 500%.
But that could increase the demand for the pizza if it's really good pizza.
I don't know. We're now 30-day-old pizza. I don't think you're getting much demand for that.
No, I'm saying like for the day of when he's making pizzas.
Yeah. So yes, the nature of your work, and then the nature of your work is obviously, stuff that you have a lot more control over, more strategic. Yes, there are careers, there are certain things that can leverage this program or the 1 month day being able to do that. So if you have enough control that you can say, well, all of my output really comes in this amount of time and I'm free to do whatever else I want. You could leverage the 1 month day to get that all done in one day and have all of it done. And then you get to take the rest of the month off.
Exactly.
Like some people can do that. Yeah. So there's that part. And then I think trying to answer that for those that can't, like there's just, if you're doing like a manual task, like those are going to be really hard. This is more for like business owners, knowledge workers, people that really get paid to use their brains. That's that real, because the whole idea is you want to be able to, so flow state is extremely useful. What we're trying to do is leverage a flow state to create so much more leverage and collapse timeframes that it is just creates so much of a competitive advantage for you.
Exactly. Yeah. Freezer time helps you move into the direction where you want to be going towards.
Yeah.
Instead of like stalling, like doing what's the statistic again? 1 hour a day?
1 hour of focused work per day, which is, I mean, good luck on sometimes even
So
getting that,
bad.
right? Like we're saying, hey, that's, and then think about if you're a business owner and you have a partner at home and children, right? And you have big goals and you want to go achieve these things. A lot of that frustration is really around, oh, well, I'm friggin' burnt out by the end of the day and I want to relax.
Yeah.
I need to and unwind, which is why people do it.
Exactly.
So there's that whole element too.
And unfortunately, we live in a world where we have technology to our fingertips, and every single thing, and you've said this beautifully before, massive war on our attention to keep us from doing, well, again, then knowingly or unknowingly, it is to keep us from doing what we need to be doing and requires our attention.
Yeah, it depends how far down the conspiracy theory.
Exactly, yeah.
Which I don't want. I mean, is there an absolute science and scientists based on like that study how to keep your attention? Absolutely. Why do you think your apps are designed the way they are? Right? They gamify you know, like, so what is it? You get likes, you get all those things, and those become a bit of a game. They become, you know, another way to entrench your attention and keep your attention. And if you look at the algorithms, if you're on the creator side of an algorithm, like you're incentivized to keep people's attention in the app.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
And so when you just take that out, that's happening everywhere. Like all of the advertising, marketing, all that stuff is you are bombarded so much more than you even realize. And that's why I'm a big proponent of sometimes just turn your phone off, go for a hike in the mountains and turn it off and just
see what's around you.
Yeah, start to experience what it was like when some of us were young and we remember what it was like to have a phone attached to the wall. And if you weren't home, guess what? And somebody called you, well, too bad. You would get back to it whenever you got back and the world still moved on. But now for some reason we feel we need to be connected every second of every day. And it's not good for us.
100%.
So if we go back to kind of the things, actually, yeah, so I actually, so we've been talking a lot about the 1 month day and how it came about. And I've obviously lived it because I've created a course around it. I actually used the 1 month day framework to build the actual course we're teaching about.
It's so meta. Use the 1 month day to build the 1 month day.
Right? It's like Inception.
In 1 month. In 1 day in the month.
But I would, because you have gone through it, so I'm going to throw it back to you. So enough about me. And I would like for you to share your experience of actually going, because you've gone through a few of them. And I guess what were some of your thoughts when you first kind of were introduced to the idea of the 1 month day? So, you know, what was your thinking around it? And then when you actually implemented it, what was your experience and what have you since come to learn and appreciate about it?
So for our listeners that have been tuned in with us from like the early episodes, you guys might remember that I was robbed of the moment to share my story due to time constraints.
Oh,
but we
now
don't
we're out of time.
You don't do that to me again. So to answer your question, like when I was first introduced to it, it had been the exact same kind of similar experience as you. Like I'd experienced it in my life. I didn't know what it was called. I had no idea how to get back into it. It was just a fluke that I ended up into it mostly because of stress, anxiety, and the desire to be successful. So that kind of put me into that state the first time ever in my life. But I didn't know that I'd even experienced that up until we had this conversation.
Right.
So the first time you introduced me to this is when you knew that I had to be responsible for delivering a project that would have taken 3 months, but it was requested to be done in 2 weeks. And I was talking to you about it, and you kind of nudged me towards this, and you told me how to do it, taught me everything about it, and honestly, I thought you were a crazy person. And this is I haven't said this to him before, but it's such a big claim to make, right? Yeah. And it has nothing to do with the fact that this course sounds like far-fetched. It's because we have so much BS thrown at us every single day. Mm-hmm. There's so many influencers online that will convince you or tell you that they have figured out the secret sauce to becoming the next millionaire at the age of 20.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
There are some that are legit, but the reality is, like, you see 100 of them. What makes you feel like the 101th is going to be the? Sorry, that was a throwback to a joke from one of the earlier episodes. But the 101st, what makes you think that is going to be better, right? So to go back to your question, I was scared, confused, and nervous. Like couldn't fathom that you could deliver something in such a short period of time. Just because, again, everybody day to day lives the exact same life as, the person next to you. Kind of like you'll see your coworker anytime like they're doing some work, will pull out their phone and get distracted just because they need that 5 seconds of dopamine before they get back into it. Yeah. Without realizing, just as you said, that you take yourself out of that concentrated, focused flow state, right? Yeah. So the first time I did it, you explicitly told me, like, to get the best out of your day, wake up early just so there's no distractions around you. Mm-hmm. You're not getting your notifications on your phone. And the best way to do that, to avoid anything that you're expecting on your phone, is to just shut it off. So have a good night of sleep, and then, plan what it is that you want to do. Luckily, in my situation, I knew what I needed to do. It was just time constrained, and I couldn't figure out how to flow through it. We actually kind of worked through what the things I needed to get done and what would lead me to basically like climbing a mountain, which side is going to get me to the top the quickest, right? Yeah. Instead of just trying to climb up through the trees.
Right. So as a simpler context, it was just, we reverse engineered extremely clear goals.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to get too in depth into the details about like how that progressed through, but I found
so you were talking about, it was a 3-month project. Mm-hmm. You had 2 weeks to deliver, and what did you accomplish at the end of that 1 month day?
Yeah, so that's what I was getting to, is I found that when I was doing what I needed to do and knowing exactly where I needed to be, where my next step was going to be, 6 hours went by, had no idea how that disappeared. Like I looked up and I was like, what the heck? And then I looked at the product of the work that I finished, couldn't even believe that I had done what I needed to get done in 6 hours. And so I'm a big proponent of like making your fresh meals, like eating healthy and everything. After the 6 hours, I felt so mentally free, didn't feel like there was any chains or anything holding me back. I made by far one of the best meals I've ever made. And it just kind of was flowing to me. Like I was just, feeling like my brain was receptive to all the ideas out there now. Like it was absorbing more stuff now that like the thing that was constraining me. So it actually did take me 2 1-month days, because again, the timeline was 3 months. And the second one I did for 8 hours instead of the initial 6.
Right. Well, actually, so to be fair, what you did was you actually just took one month day and you broke it into 2.
Exactly.
So it didn't become 2 month day. It was just the way it worked for you based on your specific scenario was we just broke it into 2 and split it
Exactly.
over 2 days, but it was half each day
Yeah.
to get your full 1 month day.
Exactly. Yeah. And so honestly, again, it you said it perfectly. It kind of like it can be customized depending on your situation.
Yeah.
But it's a tool for exactly these types of situations where you have a, big goal that you have to deliver in such a short period of time.
Yep.
And the most unique thing that I had experienced while going through the 1 month day was the control over my attention and realizing the reason why I was only able to go 6 hours as well the first time was because I, like most people, am very heavily dependent on my phone. Like I find myself looking at my phone a lot. I constantly want to be on top of anything that might pop up, so that and like even if an email pops up and it's not even an actual work related email, it's just an advertisement, I need to look at it knowing that like I can look at it later. It's not going to be exactly how you said. Like, how did people live before when we didn't have
time. It was a magical time.
So for me, like I found that any time I finished a task that would lead me to the next one, I immediately looked for my phone and I had to remind myself, oh, you know what? Like, yeah, but why am I looking for it? What do I want to do? But yeah, no, that's kind of one of the biggest things that I realized going through it is how much more control I had over the things I wanted to get done, and realized that it wasn't a far-fetched goal. Like it wasn't something that's unattainable. It was realistic, and it is sustainable.
Yes.
Because the next time I had to do the 1 month day, I was a lot more prepared. So this is something that we've talked about before as well, is that it takes a couple of iterations to really understand how to perfect it, and
Yeah, I mean it's skill acquisition.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It is, you're learning a new skill, and if you've not spent a lot of time in flow before, like there's a whole learning process around what does flow actually feel like. And the first time, it's gonna probably suck a bit.
Yeah.
But even when it sucks, it's still immensely, like millions of percentage better than what you've been doing.
Yeah. And the beauty of the course is because it's, again, as you said, evergreen. You don't have to feel like you have to memorize it and then the video gets self-destructed after.
Oh, wait, could I have done that? Could I have done that? This message will self-destruct in 5 minutes.
This is knowledge that you have to now retain forever.
Yes.
Because, the first time I did the 1 month day, and I completely lost the concept of the one big domino, because when I went into the 1 month day, I was kind of having a bit of a struggle, and kind of you helped me with the one big domino. But when I came back to it my third time, I watched the course all over again, and because I'd already done it, I knew exactly. But had I not watched it, honestly, I had completely forgotten the concept of the one big domino. And the problem is, like, again, this is what we're talking about here, is none of these things are groundbreaking things, aside from like the flow state, and that's not something that's very well known. But I'm talking mostly about like the frameworks that we share and everything.
Yeah.
These are things that people already have heard of before or know of, but they might have lost them in kind of like,
or not heard them put together in a certain way that really helps them understand how it's all connected, right? So I think one of the first things we start the course off with is mindset, and why that's so important, and what going into something like this with what the mindset is, and those things are, or why it's so important. And then we tie all of those frameworks together throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. And I think it's such a perfect way to start the course because, again, I was coming in with the mindset that, oh my God, this guy is selling me some mumbo jumbo and there's no way that this is going to be possible. And after, again, taking that step back to understand that anything I set my mind to is going to allow me to be successful. Yeah. It's going to, I can do what I believe I can do, right? And if you believe you can get a month's worth of work done in one day with the right tools, resources, and knowledge, you will get it.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of people, when they say that, they're basing it off of what their experience is, and they don't, from their experience, they've not seen it. And so what they have experienced is a very distracted life. That they don't get a ton of shit done. Because if they had gotten a lot of stuff done, they wouldn't be where they are. And they wouldn't be as stressed or burnt out or overwhelmed as they're currently feeling.
Yeah.
So for them, it's such a foreign concept. And when we say like more in a month, more in one day than you've done in a month, like that's baseline. That is the bare minimum. We're not even being ridiculously, like that's not even, like it sounds like a big stretch, but when you really understand flow, and I'm really glad that you talked about your first experience with it, and that there were challenges. It wasn't perfect, and that's one thing I try to hammer into people when they take this is that it is not going to be perfect. I have people that continually do it, and this is 5th, 6th, 7th iteration, and they're just starting to really start to catch everything they're starting to now scratch below the surface of it. And that's why it's so important. Like this is, it's not just you take this course and suddenly you're magically, this is why this is an ongoing thing, because as you get better at this, you start to learn, teach you how to get into a deeper flow state, in which case your productivity, creativity even multiplies even more. And so like this whole 1 month day is just on the basic premise that we can help you kind of wrap your attention and focus for a fixed period of time and show you at a very basic level what is absolutely possible that you don't even believe is possible right now because you haven't experienced it. And once you see it, it's going to blow your mind as what you can do.
Yeah. So my other thing that I experienced also was that as I did my 1 month days, the first one, I found my mind wandering a little bit. Well, actually a lot.
Yes.
The second one, I had a bit more control over it.
Yes.
And the third one, I knew exactly how to steer out of it immediately.
Yes.
Right. And again, that's, as you said, a skill that you would only perfect as you go through it more and more times and have to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like learning anything new.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm experiencing that currently. When I was young, I took martial arts, but now, as you know, like, I am thoroughly now engaged in a new martial art. And it takes a tremendous, when you are someone who wants to learn as quickly as they possibly can, there is it is part of the process that you can take in. You're only going to be able to take in so much at a time. And this is exactly, you're developing a new skill. So you're not just going to go once and be like, oh, yeah, I know this.
I got it.
Yeah. Like that is why you go multiple times, is you have to understand it. So there's one thing to learn a concept, right? And then learn the concept and then how to apply that and then how to own it and apply it. That really, like you know it and you inherently just are able to do it.
Yeah, because there's, and this is a little bit of a side thing, but there's 3 different ways of learning. It's audio, visual, and like
kinesthetic.
Yeah, like written. So if you do all 3, that's one iteration of learning. If you do all 3 again, that's another iteration of learning, and it's going to set in a lot deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and think if you're just doing one of those, you're just looking at something.
Exactly.
Okay, well, you're only getting a small portion of it, And then if that's all you're doing repeatedly, well, you're still missing out on two other dimensions of that ability to learn and take information in.
And that's exactly why we have tools and resources in the course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I
Hit
think
all three.
You also brought up something. I just want to make sure that I hope people also caught on to the fact that when you first went through your 1 month day, you just felt like mentally like you weren't chained down, and suddenly you felt free. Yeah. Like if there isn't a better mental picture for what like having a huge reduction in cognitive load is, that is exactly it.
Yeah. And it's honestly, I don't know how else to describe it, because I appreciate good food, as many people do. But when you're so cognitively wound down, you just want some nutrition in you. Like, there's things that you need to be doing. So the joy of actually taking the moment of cooking a nice meal, or having a nice conversation with somebody, or really like kind of exploring a skill that you never did before, that joy comes back to you. Like that desire to just do it because you want to do it is back to you. Now you're no longer worried about the little things that are eating away and nagging at you, and again, takes away the joy of wanting to do things because you feel guilt. Yeah. And you've said this before in like our previous conversations, that the reality is, as an entrepreneur, you're constantly feeling like you've got to fight all fronts and have 36 hours in a 24-hour day to be able to do things. Yeah. And that's not true. Yeah.
Well, we're constantly torn between, feeling the guilt of not doing the things that we know we should be, but also not optimizing every minute of the day. And it's a very difficult place to feel constantly torn between. And so you're either letting someone else down or letting yourself down or whatever it is. And part of that is you've been conditioned, right? Whether or not you realize it, is that we as a society have been conditioned for a lot of those things and to believe those things. And this is the way we take that back. This is the way we take back control of that and relearn the skills that we used to have as a society, where we are in control of our focus and our attention and things that we pay attention to. And we're not victims of that, but we move intentionally to do those things. Yeah. So I think we've talked quite a bit about the 1 month day and the whole, the reason behind it, why. And I think my closing thought on that is, like, we're not here saying you do this and you're going to make $10 million or $10 billion. That's not what this is about. No. Right. So it was just, when you had talked about, the people selling stuff on, they're selling stuff, I'm like, you do this and you'll be a millionaire by age 21. I'm like, really, I don't care. It's like, that's not what this is about. This is actually a skill that can help you at any stage of your business continually. Now, if you take it and you make an extra 10% income and revenue, great. You could take it and you could blow the doors off it, and who knows, right? We're not here to make that claim. The thing is you will radically and you dramatically improve the quality of your life and business by implementing this, because the benefits are so overwhelmingly not just, getting more done, but you'll have the most important stuff done. You will reclaim your life back. You will not become a ghost to your friends. You will be able to have time to do your hobbies if you want to join martial arts and things like that, right? Or do things, spend time with your spouse, your children, all those things. Not only that, but you take it and you implement it for your business, then inevitably, like, you'll be focusing on the most important stuff. You'll have no other choice but to improve. Yeah. And so what that means, that's up to you. It's not for us to say you take this course and you're going to make $10 billion. That's completely on you. Like, this is the skill. This is the skill that you need to develop to be able to do that, to be able to compete with some people who are just innately able to go out there and work relentlessly.
Yeah. So I think this is a perfect place to call it. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. Anybody that's looking to get a bit more understanding about the course and how to enroll in it, or is interested in finding a bit more about it, please comment down below. We can reach out to you directly, give you a bit more information about that. If there is anything, again, in this podcast that you heard that you think could help a business owner that you know or an entrepreneur that you know, please share, let them know, send them our way. We're here to help. Again, as Darris mentioned, like, there's no big claims we're making, but we are here to help you through your journey and help you get the things done that you were always been wanting to get done.
Yes. And with that, we try as best we can to maintain true to the original intent of the podcast, which is the minimum effective dose, right? Which is meds, the minimum effective dose. And these are the things that will make a dramatic improvement. And so we try as best we can to stay true to that. So thank you, Mom. Thank you to Saad's mom. We appreciate that. To all of our, people that have been here since the beginning, that as soon as we release an episode, the views happen. Thank you. We see it. For those that are new and just joining us along the journey, thank you for taking the time to spend with us. We look forward to spending much more time with all of you moving forward. So with that, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. And we will see you in the next episode. And remember, you're just one day away from the life you've always wanted.